everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today, I wanted to address something that I've been thinking about for a while, but I haven't really gotten the motivation to make this video until NMIXX's debut. So in this video, we're going to be talking about the decline of JYP Entertainment, both in regards to the quality of the music that they're putting out and their overall success as a company. Now, before I get any upset company stands in my comment section, I just want to preface this by saying I don't hate any of the groups that I'm going to be talking about today. If I'm going to be assigning any blame throughout this video, it's going to be on the company itself and not any of the groups that they manage. Because any shift in promotion style or artistic direction is, at the end of the day, going to be decided by the higher-ups within JYP, not the artists themselves. And instead of saying it's the group's fault that they might not be as successful as they could be, I'm instead taking the stance that JYP Entertainment is sort of sabotaging their own groups. I've actually brought this up before in one of my past videos, where for my 2022 K-pop predictions, I said that JYP would experience a sort of downfall, and unfortunately, it seems like I was kind of right. And before I really decided that I wanted to make this video, I thought about what would happen in the future for JYP groups, and honestly, unless I'm proven wrong, which I hope I am, I think a majority of the groups under JYP right now are going to continue to lose popularity within the upcoming months. Since JYP is currently managing 7 groups that are promoting mainly in Korea, and are planning to debut a new one in JYP Loud in the near future, I wanted to separate this video into group-specific sections, and one by one talk about what I think lies in the future for each of them. And I think that covers just about everything that I wanted to mention in this intro. Thanks so much for watching, and without further ado, let's talk about the first group. So I first wanted to talk about NMIXX because I feel like they sort of encapsulate everything that's going wrong within JYP Entertainment. And the main idea that I wanted to share is that JYP don't seem like they know what they're doing. At least, not anymore. We saw how groups like TWICE and ITZY debuted with really strong concepts and stuck to them for at least a couple of years. But in the past 2 or 3, both of those groups have sort of deviated from what they originally were, and I feel like with NMIXX we've really seen how JYP has sort of lost a grip of what they want to do creatively, with a group that has made their debut and has had their effect on the K-pop world, but nobody really knows who they are still. With TWICE, they debuted, and people instantly knew that they were going for a cute image. And with ITZY, right off the bat with Dalla Dalla, people knew that they were going for the whole love yourself thing. But with NMIXX, they released their debut song, and all I really got out of it was that they want money. It feels like JYP saw how much of a smash hit the beat drop in Aespa's Next Level was, and essentially recreate it and try to scoop up some of the leftover cash that Aespa left behind. You know, I don't see NMIXX as their own unique group yet. I kind of just see them as Aespa 2.0 because we want money. And the Coke Zero ad placement within the lyrics and music video didn't really help with that. But unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, it's very obvious that the Korean general public does not care for JYP's sad attempt to replicate what Aespa's doing, seeing as how the group's debut song has fallen out of almost all of the major Korean music charts. Now, obviously NMIXX's debut is not the most unsuccessful one we've ever seen in K-pop, but it doesn't meet the standards for an average big 3 group. Overall, I hope the comparatively low level of success that NMIXX's debut got really does light a fire under JYP's ass, because this just shows that even if you're a big 3 company, you can't put the absolute minimum amount of effort into a group and still expect them to do well. So JYP, do better. So the next group that we're going to talk about is XDinary Heroes, which is the band that debuted last year. And similarly to NMIXX, XDinary Heroes is a big 3 group that has not met the big 3 expectations. And even though the expectations were lower for them because they're a band and not an idol group, even those lower expectations were still not met. The only group that it feels fair to compare them to is Day 6 because they're the only other big 3 band. And when you make that comparison, it makes XDinary Heroes look a bit, honestly, pathetic, for lack of a better word. While Day 6's debut song hit number 58 on the Gaon Music digital charts, Happy Death Day by XDinary Heroes did not enter the top 200. And when you take into account the overall failure of both XDinary Hero and NMIXX's debuts, it makes me think that JYP as an entertainment company is losing a lot of their momentum, to the point where lots of people have stopped checking out the new groups that debut under them. I know personally, I didn't even hear about XDinary Heroes until a couple of days before their debut, and I think JYP believed that the popularity of the other groups under their label would create enough hype for their new groups that they wouldn't need to promote them as heavily as they did their previous ones. And while this certainly worked to a certain degree, it's also caused these 2 groups to be basically invisible to most of the general public. Your debut song is supposed to leave a huge impression on the general public, so that when you have a comeback, people are interested and they tune back in. However, these 2 groups, they didn't make any impression at all. And unless major changes are made to their promotional style, when they do eventually come back, the comparatively few amount of people that tuned into their debuts, even less will probably check out their comebacks. Now on to Day 6, and the future for them does not look too bright, unfortunately. Since 3 of the 4 active members are currently in the military and ONEPIL is just about to enlist as well, it's gonna be a minimum of 2 years before we get any activities as a full group. And even if they do release new music after they're done with their enlistments, I'm not too optimistic about how well it would do. I think one of Day 6's biggest strengths was how they were able to dominate the international market, at least when it came to K-bands. And since their most internationally popular member just left the group, I'm unsure of their ability to keep doing that 2 years from now. From what I can see, 3 of the 4 members who are still in the group have all released solo music, and none of their releases have really done exceptionally well, neither with the international nor the domestic fan bases, and I just don't think there's much of a market for them as a 4-membered group. I don't see any way for them to maintain their fan bases as they ride out this enlistment period, and on a more grim note, I'm not sure if JYP will either. Within a year or 2, the group's gonna have to face contract renewals, and I'm not sure if the 4 of them, or even JYP, will want to renew their contracts. It's really unfortunate that after all of the success of Zombie, the enlistment of Sungjin kind of stopped all momentum that they had, and because they've just sort of fizzled out afterwards, I don't think that there's much of a future for Day 6 as a whole group. ITZY is probably one of the groups that I'm least worried about when it comes to JYP. Their fanbase grows with every comeback, and they're still definitely one of the contenders to be the 4th gen leaders. However, compared to 2019 and 2020, their 2021 run was not as successful as it could have been. They still have not yet managed to release a comeback that resonated as well in Korea as Dala Dala, and Wannabe is still their best performing song internationally. And it's totally fine to have some comebacks be less successful than others, but I just hope that ITZY doesn't continue on this trend of losing a little bit of steam with each new release. Not that either of their 2 comebacks last year did badly, it's just that they haven't been able to top their most popular songs, and if they aren't able to do so soon, people are going to start saying that they peaked, and then at that point it's going to be really hard for them to reclaim their spot as a top 4th gen competitor. It's definitely obvious that ITZY have deviated from their original sound with their past 2 or 3 comebacks, and that's fine, they're still doing well with their new sound. But with one of their next 2 comebacks, JYP really needs to give them a smash hit that does super well for a long time, or else I fear that they're going to become stagnant with their success, and not really growing as fast as they could. The uncertain future of TWICE is what really has me scared for JYP. TWICE is undeniably the company's most famous group of all time, but at this point it's looking more likely that they won't renew their contracts than they will. The health breaks that Mina and Jonghyun have had to take through no fault of their own have me seriously doubtful of their desire to continue with JYP, and I feel like if the 2 decide to cut their ties with the company, the rest of the members will follow suit. And if that does happen, JYP is gonna lose an unimaginable amount of money. The possibility of losing their biggest moneymaker also comes with the possibility of losing countless sponsors, which means the company might not be able to properly invest in all of these new groups that they're debuting. With all of this constant new content that JYP is putting out for TWICE, I feel like he knows that they might not renew their contracts and is trying to work them down to the bone, trying to squeeze all of the money that he can out of the group. And if TWICE do disband, that money that he got will probably last the company for a year or 2. But afterwards, I feel like a lot of things will happen with that company, and none of them are good. Generally speaking, I think Stray Kids have the least to worry about. Within the past year or 2, the group has really blown up in popularity, and they just keep growing every single comeback, which I think is due to their status as a self-produced group. You know, when you're so directly involved with the creative process, it's hard for your company to sort of sabotage you. And though Thunderous received a lot of mixed reviews, their enormous fanbase was enough to carry them through that. Since they only debuted in 2017, they have a long road ahead of them, and I do think if TWICE do ever disband, that Stray Kids will become the main moneymakers within the company. Generally, I have nothing bad to say about Stray Kids' future, but that's mostly just because JYP doesn't influence them as much as they do their other groups. So yeah, nothing bad to say about them here. Oh, and as for 2PM, I think they're pretty safe. And that concludes this video. Honestly, all of my worries are for these new groups that JYP is debuting and the 3rd gen groups who are up for contract renewals really soon. I think Stray Kids and ITZY are going to be fine for the most part, but you can't base a big 3 company on 2 groups alone. So I'm not really sure what JYP's plan for the future is. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what your thoughts on the video were in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed, consider leaving a thumbs up or subscribing. Thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.